Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Parentune Live. Today, we are with Parentune expert, psychologist, and child behavioral specialist Kiran Tevtiya. And we're talking about how to improve your child's concentration levels. Welcome, Kiran. Kiran, please tell us what causes lack of concentration in children.
The first and foremost, of course, being they are children. Biologically, need they need to go through the whole process of development. That is the reason, if we have to put it across, that is the reason why all the coronavirus vaccine is only there for 18 plus. That's the reason why antidepressant medicines are not strongly used on children, because they're biologically different, right? They still need to build upon their self-regulation. They still need to build upon their self-control. So first, we got to understand children are children, first thing. Now, second thing is that there are many things. First, let's talk about physiological. If the child is not well rested, if the child is not well fed, if the child is not having proper exercise, these physiological things are also going to impact the concentration of the child, right? Okay, that's the second thing. Third thing is distractibility of the child. Okay, so how much is the distractibility of the child? What is the age of the child? Is the expectation age appropriate? Say for 4-year-old, the concentration expectation should be different. For a 9-year-old, it should be different. So age appropriateness also needs to be taken in consideration. Another thing is some disturbances, some family disturbances that can also add on, some anxieties of the child, noise in the child, right? Those can also be the trigger which can affect the concentration of the child. Any changes, for example, if the school has changed, any environment changes can also affect. Family differences can affect the child. And then, of course, how much is the problem solving, frustration tolerance that has got developed? That is also another angle here to focus on. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kiran. Kiran, has lockdown, the whole pandemic situation that we've faced in 2020, and in some parts even now, is there a link of that to a child's concentration levels and focus levels?
Sure enough, in case if in some of the households we're observing that the child's attention and focus was fine before the lockdown, okay, and that is a new worry which the parent is facing, because during the lockdown, then of course this is quite possible, because for one reason the child is not going out enough, okay, the child is not socially connecting enough, the de-stressing avenues are less for the child, the anxiety level of seeing the coronavirus news, the pandemic news around within the family. Also there are households where the parents have suffered from that. So all these things can, and higher exposure to devices affect on the structure routine of the child, late sleep timing, irregular eating timing, high exposure to devices. So yes, of course, pandemic can lead to an effect on the attention and focus of the child. Yeah.
Thank you, Kiran. If you've just joined this Parentune Live, we are with child psychologist and child behavioral specialist expert Kiran Tevtiya, and we're talking about how to improve your child's concentration levels. Please stay on this live. You can ask your questions in the comment section, and we'll take them up in a short while. Our first parent is Shifali Gupta, and Shifali says, "I'm a single mother. My son is 7 years and 8 months old. He's very good at speaking, understanding, and reading. But when he sits down to read, he thinks a lot, and so much that his attention goes somewhere else. He kind of stops the work that he's doing, because of which he takes a lot of time to complete the work that is assigned to him. When I scold him for something, he says that I'm bad, and now he has copied and he just keeps on saying that you're bad, and you're asking this and you're asking that. He has also started writing that I'm a bad boy. So he is now thinking of himself as a bad boy. I am the only one to take care of him. I'm very upset because there's a lot of work pressure, and then there is this thing. Please help me and please let me know how can I deal with this situation.
Okay. All right. So there are a few points here, Shifali. First thing is, of course, being a single parent and single working parent. First thing which I would advise you is that you got to take care of your own health, very important. And you should reduce the parental guilt, which can sometimes come, uh, uh, all the more if somewhere you feel that you're not spending enough time with your child, or if your child is saying, mama, why you are going out for work and all. So that can also lead you to do overcompensatory activities as well. So that is at your angle. Please take care of your own health, uh, because if your energy, cup of energy is full, it's going to help your child much better. Okay. Now coming back to your child, if suppose you're sitting with him, okay, and generally it is said that with every age of the child, 3 to 5 minutes is what is a fair enough expectation of attention level. So what this necessarily mean is your 7-year-old child, so 20 minutes to 35 minutes probably is a fair enough expectations from your child. So just see if, in terms of the timings that he's sitting on, is expectations are fair enough. Secondly, if he's like, when you're asking him some question or when you're giving him some activities and he's lost in his own thoughts, just see if every day he's sitting on the same place, the consistency. If more or less he's sitting around at the same time, more or less, for the studies, so that consistency helps the child. And if you notice that he's thinking something else, so maybe sometimes some children work better if you put a hand on his hand, your hand on his hand, and you can just say, you can have some kind of code or some kind of keyword that, all right, focus on the work, right? Or you can actually say, what are you thinking about? So you can give him an opportunity to say one line or two lines so that he's out with it. And then you say, great, so we'll talk about it, let's focus on the work. So a little closer, a hand on his body or on his hand, that can help him to bring the focus back. Another thing is, you may also have to notice that when you're sitting with him, all right, so before that and after that, what is he doing? So it is a good idea to see that if he has just finished his online classes, that is a high concentration job, or if he has just finished his tuition classes, he has had some kind of downtime, right? He had some kind of time where he could just relax, and which shouldn't involve devices. So he has had some kind of that time, and then you are sitting with him. So just take care of that. And if the TV is off, and if even, like for example, you gave him a question, and then while he's doing it, you are on your devices, that can also be distractible for the child. So my advice is, if you're sitting with him 20 to 35 minutes, you may have to keep your devices away as well. Yeah, just see, I hope it works for you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kiran. Shifali, we hope you've heard this, and please write back to us in case you have any more questions. Amrita Uniyal has a 4 years old child, and Amrita says, my daughter, who's 4 years old, is not interested in maths. She cannot focus on what she writes. What can I do to make maths specifically interesting in writing and in reading?
Right. Amrita, 4 years old. Um, uh, just see how much you are actually concentrating on writing and how much you are concentrating on reading. My advice is focus more on the reading part, where you are reading for your child. Even when the child is resting and you're also resting, you are reading stories to the child. You are connecting through that. Introducing arithmetic, introduced to the real life, so that the child understands that maths is not a subject, maths is practical life. For example, if you want to introduce to your 4-year-old child counting, so you can actually start with the crayons that you give. All right, let's take out 4 crayons. Today we will start with 4 colors. Or when you're giving something to eat to the child. Okay, let's take out 4 pea pods, or four pieces of, or triangle, let's cut it in a triangular shape. So introduce the concepts like that in the real life. So arithmetic and reading are two skills that I would suggest to focus on, less on the writing part. I understand that there are places, traditional school setup, where there is a lot of focus on writing, and as a parent, you can get anxious that if I don't get it right for my child at this time, maybe the child will not be able to cope up in senior KG and other classes. I would suggest go a little easy on it. You really want your 4-year-old child to see the joy of learning at this point of time, instead of thinking that this is a moment where there's a lot of struggle, there's a lot of conflict, and my parent says, okay, write 10 times. I want to just get done with it. So my suggestion is that let the teachers do what they are doing. You can always take advantage of one-to-one and be more dynamic and be more dramatic about it. Yeah. So introduce the concept of one first, as compared to focusing more on writing part.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiran. Our next question comes from Anju Raman Roth, who has a 6-year-old daughter. And Anju says, my daughter has a seizure disorder and she's under medication. She's in class 1, but she never wants to study. She always gives excuses and also starts crying. I'm a working single mother. She's interested in dancing and playing, but never wants to study. Please guide how to make her sit for just an hour so she focuses and studies. Kiran, she's also, although she hasn't asked directly in her question, but she's mentioned about the seizure disorder, so you can take that into account while answering.
Right, right. Of course, if uh, the medicines affect the children much more, so there could be genuine side effects of that as well. Having said that, right, for any before we label a child, right? So the child needs to consistently show a challenge in different areas. So if you are saying that your child is functioning well in dance and in the other part of real life, I think it could be more about working closely with the child and in a shorter span of time. Like what I hear is you're probably saying it's about 1 hour. 6 years old, maybe you want to put it as, if I have to go by the mathematics that I just gave a while back, 3 minutes to 5 minutes. So 6 5s are 30, 30. So, and 6 3s are 18. So 20 to 30 minutes, you want to just reduce it, keep it time based instead of making it long. If you notice that in 20 minutes your child is just not focusing, so maybe give her some break, that what, take a half an hour break and then we will resume it, or take a 1 hour break and we'll resume it. So give a break to the child, and then you can resume it back. And another thing is that, which I suggest, 6 years, it's a young age. Please, consider that. Sometimes when a child has just come into first standard, it can be overwhelming for the child from coming from the senior KG, because suddenly the course becomes high, the number of hours for the studies become high. So help the child to, first handle that pressure first, and focus more on the understanding of the child. If the child is understanding the concept, maybe give some time to the child, because I've noticed, Shalini, that even though the tables are introduced to the child from second grade onwards, they go all the way till fourth and fifth grade. So let the child, instead of just saying that okay, the child has to perfect it right then and there. Even addition, even though it started early on, it keeps going on and a little more and more complex every year. So go a little easy on that, introduce in practical life, and go with the speed of your child. Yeah. If your child is working well in all the other areas, so this area maybe you want to bring down the expectation a bit, and give smaller tasks, give smaller achievable tasks to her, and give specific direct commands to her. So if you expect her, instead of saying, okay, you know what, you finish this whole thing, you can probably give her more specific. You know what, you have to write this 5 times, right? Or you have to do. And another thing, Anshu, that I will share is that, instead of focusing on the quantity, focus on the quality. For example, instead of saying, okay, you have to do addition, 6 different types of additions, how about spending those 15 minutes in just doing one addition, right? But doing it in a manner where you take different things, right? So focus on doing one activity where your child is able to enjoy that. And of course, the child will be able to replicate all the other 5 types of similar questions. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for such an elaborate reply. Anju, we hope you've heard this. If you have any more questions, please feel free to write to us. Amritya has a 6 years old child, and Amritya says, my child goes completely blank when asked a question. Once I am done with teaching a concept. While I'm teaching, it seems he's listening. But when I ask a question, he has no clue about it. He gives a blank look. Even if I repeat 2 to 3 times, he remembers it for a day and then again forgets it. Same thing happens during online classes as well. Please suggest me some strategies to make him understand the concepts as well as retain them for long.
Right, right. Amrita, as far as the retention goes, one thing you may want to see for a 6-year-old child, right? Discount away what the child is learning in the online classes. It's good enough if he's sitting through it. Very nice, right? Now, when you are sitting with your child, whatever the child is doing at that time, whatever are the environmental things which are going at that time, so the knowledge, the information is going to go with all the other sensory things that the child is experiencing around. Okay, so in case if some music is going on somewhere, the child is going to save that data with the noise which is going on. In case the child has is just doing it after back to back after another high concentration activity, the lag, the the cognitive fatigue, the brain fatigue is going to go with the child. So just see how that can be worked out, where some place where the distraction is less is there. Finally, focus more on what the child is speaking instead of you directing it. So, and give the time to the child. For example, if you know that you have shared right how to solve a particular problem, then let the child do the thinking. Don't be in a rush to help the child. As I said, instead of concentrating on doing 10 similar kind of thing, concentrate on doing one thing, but let the child think on it. Right, if the need be, you can actually have your own cutoff. You can actually say, you know what, my time 10 minutes are over, I leave it up to you. In fact, there are schools where for 6 years old they actually have open book exams. Right, it is suggested that they have open book exam. First they learn to find how to find information, right? Then they learn, okay, how do I retain the information? In fact, just think about it. If your child is going through the pages, you just say, all right, you find it out how to find the answer, right? Let me know. Okay, so when the child goes, opens the book and is looking for that one answer, your child will actually see 10 more things. Right, so let give some challenges to your child also, instead of just thinking that let me repeat it second time, third time. Don't go into the repetition, just tell it once and let the child do it, find it out himself. And then when he comes to you that mama, I'm just not getting it, then slowly take the child through the critical thinking of the answer. Don't be in a rush to solve the problem for the child. Make it long. That's what I say. In fact, it is possible that you may actually be doing it. Suppose you are done for the day and your child is done for the day. You say, all right, we are going to take a break today. Let's start it again tomorrow. Again tomorrow. So same concept, you are actually doing it for 3 days, but you will notice that just because you made it longer, one problem only, the retention will be much higher, and you did it at the speed of the child in a child directed manner. So if you do it, the chances are high that the child is going to remember it for much longer. Yeah, because
Thank you.
it's about converting the information into knowledge. Yeah, it's about converting the information into the knowledge and knowledge into insights, right? And for all the later things, you can't help the child. The child has to do their own thinking, and you have to give time to the child for that. Yeah.
Correct, correct. Thank you. Thank you so much for such a nice way to put it. We'll take Bandana's question next. And Bandana has a 11-year-old daughter. She says, my daughter, who's 11 years old, always keeps something in her hand, whether she's in the class or whether she's doing some other work, but she always has something in her hand. Please let me know how to improve her concentration in her study as well as in other things also.
Right. Now, yeah, Vandana. So if I have to, think what could actually be bothering you, maybe, different children, right? Now we have to understand when the child is sitting and to do a highly focused activity, okay, and you can never keep everything quiet. In fact, some children actually don't function when everything is quiet. They need some kind of static noise. They work better in there. Different children can be working differently. So you've got to understand that the child has to cancel out everything which is going out, including their own internal stimuli. A lot of time when the child is looking at your child, when looks at the notebook and sees some photograph, suddenly some memory related to that photograph, maybe the child saw a beach photograph, so suddenly some memory gets triggered and the child is lost in the experience, mental experience of that. Okay, so there are internal stimuli as well. Now, sometimes some children are good at building their own ways to minimize those distractions. So it is, as long as your daughter is keeping a thing in her hand, and you may think that it's actually distracting her, maybe you want to kind of ignore that. In fact, there are schools who actually allow the child to stand, if not sit. They don't focus so much on, okay, you first sit down, and think. They're okay, you stand, that's perfectly fine. In fact, there have been evidence that a lot of times we could actually be thinking better in a standing position than a sitting position. So don't be so let's avoid being so particular about, okay, your posture, okay, don't move any part of your body, focus here. It's better if you give more time to the child, because at the end of the day, the child has to build their own strategies to retain the knowledge. Some children do well by repeating it in their mind. Some children do well by asking you more questions, which could actually annoy you. I just told you yesterday, but that is also one way to retain, when they're asking similar questions again. So the child needs to build their own strategies. So that part you may have to ignore it. Yeah. I hope that
Thank you,
helps.
Kiran. Thank you. That's very interesting that for parents specifically to not really be very particular and pinpoint on things like posture and if they're repeating or not. So that's a very nice way to put it. Vandana, we hope you heard this. In case you have any more questions, please feel free to write back to us. Barkha Singh has a daughter who's 5 years and 6 months old. Barkha says she's an active child, but at the time of studies, she does not concentrate in online classes. Now, teachers have also complained about her body language. Looks like she's lazy, she yawns, and not she does not concentrate. What can I do to help her?
All right. Um, it's unfortunate, Barkha, that 5-year-old child is actually getting educated through an online medium, which is traditionally designed for the traditional way of education. It is not designed for digital way of communication, because you will notice that your child could actually be completely focused if you give her some game, right, which is her age appropriate game. She'll be completely focused on that. Whereas if you are kind of expecting that, okay, you sit in front of a mobile or a laptop and listen to your teacher, it could be difficult for her, right, as compared to if she would have been physically in the classroom with all the 3D effect of the teacher is coming, going, rustle bustle which happens. She looks at her peers and then mimics around. There is some kind of mini competitions, who is doing it first. So there are a lot of small doses of motivation which keeps going on in a real school. Okay, but then fine, something is always better than nothing. That is a good strategy. Now, what as a parent you can do to increase the chances that she's sitting through it, and she's concentrating. First thing is that wider screen. For younger children, wider screens always work better. So instead of a mobile, you can actually have at least a laptop, or if it can be on TV, that's the best. That is first. Second thing is, if you can give her the flexibility that sometimes she can stand, sometimes she can sit down, right, and avoid the couches. or avoid giving it to her on her bed or something. You just woke her up and all right, now just get started with your school. So if you can have a proper table and chair kind of concept, and even if it is on mobile for some reason, you can just position it somewhere where your child is looking at it, right? And you can also give her some kind of paper and crayons, just in case. If she See, we have to understand, if a class is for about 30-35 minutes, even in a classroom setting, a 5-year-old child may not always be concentrating. Okay, but then what the teacher does in that case is that the teacher asks the child to come on the board, do something, or goes closer to the child, or probably concentrates on other children who are giving the answers, right? The different strategies. Nothing is available out here. So she can have her own high level of interest and a little low ebbs also. Another thing which can help, Barkha, here is that just check if your child is awake half an hour, 45 minutes before the class. So that doesn't mean awake. The planning actually starts the time at which your child sleeps. So for a 5-year-old, ideally the child should have 9 to 10 and a half hours of sleep. Differs from child to child, but just ensure that if she's having enough good quality night sleep. So even if her classes are at 12 in the afternoon, you can't have your child sleeping late and getting up at 11 or 11:30. Just see if there's a routine for that. Another thing, sometimes what happens when we're in a hurry to put the child in front of the classes, breakfast may get skipped, or the child is doing parallel to doing it. Maybe if the child has had some kind of solids just before the class, good quality solid, right? I'm not talking about a packet of biscuit here, but some banana or some good quality solid, that can also help the child to feel more energetic. And in case, if you can, I don't want to put a pressure on it here, Shalini, but the best is start of a day is if the child has actually gone down for half an hour and comes back and attends the class. Because you notice how it works in the traditional class, right? They go through the whole process of going on the bus, then they get down, then they have the assembly, and then finally the focus activity, which actually gets missed out in the online mode. We just plop the child in front of it. So just see if there can be some high activity. Your chances of your child actually concentrating better in the online classes can increase. Yeah, I hope it helps.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiran. If you've just joined this Parenthood Live, we are with child behavior specialist expert Kiran Tevtiya, and we're talking about how to improve your child's concentration levels. You can ask your questions in the comment section. Kiran is going to give you some very effective tips and some do's and don'ts to make sure that your child has a higher concentration and focus level. Anu has an 11-year-old daughter, and Anu says, how can I improve her writing skills? She cannot write by herself. Kiran, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, there was a little lag here. All right. So, Shalini,
Sure.
if I've got it right, so it's Anu and she has a 12-year-old child and she wants to improve upon the writing skills of the child.
Correct. Yes.
All right. Right. There's a little tricky part here. One part is the aim. Children work better when there is an intrinsic aim to things, as compared to if it's given because that's the structure that is there. So if I have to give you example, if you tell a child, you know what, your body needs to do exercise, so every day you take a 10 rounds of the society, the motivation of the child wouldn't be so much. But if you tell the child that, okay, we are playing a game of sardines or we are playing a game of hide and seek, the child may actually, keep playing for 2 hours or 3 hours. Right. So it's about intrinsic aim. So if you say that, you know what, you have to improve upon your writing, we've got to understand that everything that you expect from your child is a means. That's not the end result. It's a means to something. All right. So probably somewhere, if you can marry that, for example, for a 12-year-old child, if you say, you know what, my expectations are that whatever assignments you're getting from your school, you submit them on time, right? So that's the aim. The aim is assignments. Now, to achieve that assignment, she got to write. As compared to, you say, all right, you know what, let me put you in the writing classes where you'll write more. uh, Children don't I mean, you she will do it to make you happy, or maybe there could be other reasons why she could do it if there are some worth enough incentives. However, it's better if the aim is something else, and writing is a means towards that. For example, if some birthdays are coming, or if there's some competition in the school about poem writing or story writing, then she's participating in that. Those are good aims. So just see if you can put it as assignment instead of writing. So the chances are high that she will participate, because the aim is different and this is the means, and the child can easily work that out. Yeah, as compared to making her work, write 10 lines or 20 lines. Yeah, I hope that helps you.
Thank you, Kiran. Hope Anu that helps you. Please do write back to us in case you have any more questions. Mansi Shah has a 5-year-old daughter, and Mansi says she had a delayed speech milestone along with concentration in writing and subjects like maths, English. Now, also speech delayed makes barrier for question answers. This is something she's saying. She also adds that my daughter is a patient of nephrotic syndrome and has gone in steroid medication for 3 years. So, how can I improve her concentration?
Shalini, this is one clinical, it goes towards the clinical side. And, to do justice to the topic that we have, I wouldn't directly would want, to take up this question. It's better that if, Mansi is able to get help from people who are into special educational needs side. Yeah, I really hope that helps.
Sure, Kiran. Thank you so much, Mansi. Like Kiran said, you can actually get onto the Parentune app where we have specialized experts, where we have a developmental pediatrician who could help with an issue like speech delay, like you mentioned, and we also have pediatricians. So you could reach out there and ask your question there, and I'm sure the right expert is going to give a detailed reply to this. Thank you so much for joining us. However, you can definitely ask any questions related to concentration in general, focus levels of your child. Dolly says, hello, ma'am. My son does not concentrate on studies, but watches TV, mobile, computer with full concentration. That I think, Kiran, is a very common concern, that concentration is not seen in studies, however, is clearly seen in extracurricular activities. So she says that with full concentration, he's onto the TV, mobile, and computer. He's 11 years old. I want him to concentrate on his studies also. Now, how do I do that?
All right. Yeah. So, Dolly, good thing is there are good and bad things about pandemic. That it has expedited something that you probably wanted to give to your child maybe a few years hence, right? So you had to give that much before that because of the need of that. Now, a few things which can help your son is if firstly somehow the device time is separated from the device being used for educational purpose and the device being used for entertainment. Now, device could be anything. It could be TV, it could be mobile, it could be laptop, whatever, but device for entertainment. So if there is a structure around that, it will be easier, and even the distractibility also, is less when the child knows that there is a structure around uses of devices. Okay, so a lot of times children start thinking that devices are a run to for any kind of boredom that sets in. However, there has been a lot of evidences which suggests that boredom is actually a trigger for more creativity for the child, right? Where the child then starts getting into other things in his own self or her own self-driven mode. So please try to see if you can divide, even if between the classes, if your son is having breaks, 15 minutes break, 20 minutes break, have some kind of rule in the house where the break is not the time and the child is switching over to YouTube's or is switching over to quick game or something, right? Encourage some other downtime activities. You could probably have a structure that first you have the school finishing and then you do some kind of downtime and then you have the entertainment. So have a clear cut structure out there. You can also have some small consequences if the because see if you say and the child does, it's not fair enough to the free will of the child, right? So the child has to sneak in sometimes, but then have some kind of small consequences for it, whether it could be reduction of the entertainment time, or your child is 11, so there are, you can talk about your expectations, you can talk about consequences if those expectations are not met, and you can run it through your child and get an acknowledgement, sir. So this is a fair enough deal. What are your suggestions about it? And follow that. That can definitely help your child. So some structure around the entertainment of devices will help your child to better concentrate on the activities. And you can also have some kind of targets. See, it is very good thing where as a parent you are addressing all the needs of your child, all right, but wherever the wants are there, right, you are fulfilling some of the wants and you are making your child work towards getting those wants. Those are a good things for your child. Those expectations are healthy for your child. So if you say, you know what, I expect you that you should have finished your assignments before you're going to the devices, so you give me the status and then you move on. So those are good expectations. So that also means that if your child is not doing the homework for that day but is actually getting engaged in other activities like outdoors or socializing or doing something in the tangible world, fair enough. So, and the child is not doing devices because the child says, you know what, I'm not doing homework at all. That's also good for him, actually. That's one thing that as a parent we should understand, that we don't give threats just so that we have to make the child work. If the child is able to pay that little price which it takes, you should be okay with that. But the child will build the motivation. So have some patience with that. But have a structure around it that will help your child to have better concentration. Yeah.
Thank you, Kiran. Shri Vali has she says my sister's son is I think 3 years is what she says, and I'm just going to read this question. I'm not very clear on the age. She says my sister's son is it's either 3 years or 12 years. Shri, if you're watching this, please let us know if the child you're talking about is 3-year-old or 12-year-old. She says he has seizures and is on regular medications for it. Now he does not even hold a crayon properly. Please tell me how can my sister help her son?
Shalini, he does not do what? I missed that line. Could you repeat it?
So she says he's not even able to hold a pen or a pencil or a crayon for coloring or something.
Right. I would assume that probably it's 3 or 4 years old instead of being at 12 years old. It's okay if your 3-year-old child is not holding the crayon so far, right? You can give some more time for those finer motor skills for the child to develop. Maybe you can think of those thicker ones, those jumbo crayons, and let the child hold the way he wants to. Sometimes you may notice that the child will hold it like the way a knife is held, right, or a stick is held. He may start with that, and slowly he may move on to the right grip. So give him some more time, his history, and for as far as the concentration goes, for children who are like between 2 to 4.5 years old, my suggestion is that instead of pulling the child towards what you want the child to do, the structured activity, it's always advisable to join the child into what the child is playing with and introduce the concepts within that. So, for example, if your child is having, animals and is kind of lining them up, right, or the child is kind of I've seen 3-year-old child who take a basket and they have a few crayons, and instead of actually they actually think of different ways to use the toys than what you expect them to. Some children are busy with disassembling the things, some children are busy with taking the crayons and taking the basket and putting one by one into different holes of the basket. Just imagine how much ingenuity it takes. So sometimes just watch your child, what your child is doing. They could actually be doing much more intelligent things than what you want your child to do. And join your child and then imitate. When you imitate what the child is doing, the connection is amazing. And then you can always introduce whatever you wish to introduce. For a younger child, real life can teach much more than any kind of book knowledge. So even if it's a circular thing, you can say, okay, you know what, wow, this is a cylindrical crayon you're putting in, can you get the triangle box here, right? That's the shapes, that's the colors. Get the car, get the toy. So join the child and introduce the concepts there. That is what I would suggest. And for 3-year-old child, wait for some more time. Of course, get it pediatrically checked about the finer motor skills, right? If your child is kind of able to, the bigger beads, take them out, see how the finer and able to pick up the grapes and all. So just focus more on that at this point of time. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Kiran. If you've just joined this Parentune Live, we are with Child Behavioral Specialist expert Kiran Tevtiya, and we're talking about how to improve your child's concentration levels. You can ask your questions in the comment section and we will take them up. Ruchika Goyal Mittal says, my son is 6 years old. He cannot concentrate on one thing at a time. If I'm talking to him about something, he will ask me about something else. He's distracted and always keeps standing. He always is standing or jumping and does not have a good, like his concentration levels are always distracted. Please tell me how to make him concentrate on things.
All right. Okay, so I would first remove a few points here which are good to think about. Firstly, multitasking. A lot of times we say that multitasking is a good thing, but for children it is always one task at a time. It helps. So before focusing on the academics, just see that in the real world, right? Be it eating, be it when you are sitting on a couch and you want to talk to your child and he's running around, okay, be it when the child is trying to pick up his things, how is he kind of wrapping it up before going, because we are talking about a 6-year-old child here. He's capable of wrapping up everything on the floor which is there, which belongs to him. Okay, so focus more on the chores that the child is doing. Focus more on, is the child eating on his own, or is he like doing multitasking of watching and eating. See how you are able to help your child into one task at a time. Right, that is one thing. Now coming back to academics, concentration for that. If your child is standing and is resting his arms on the desk and is writing there, it should be okay, right? However, if the child is running away, you can kind of make the stakes higher for the child, right, than for your own self. So if you're just sitting there and shouting out the name of your child and waiting that, oh, you're not paying attention, getting worked up, it's always better to then say, okay, time yourself. I'm going to wait for 5 minutes, right? And then I'm going to take a break and you come to me when you are available, right? And then make the stakes high for the child. So you're taken in 5 minutes, you say, all right, it's time's up, and you go away and you do your own work. When the child is coming to you, you can remind to your child that, you know what, you've got to finish that up. So now my expectation is you finish up yourself and you show it to me. If you need help, come where I am. So wherever you're working, your child will carry the things there. And then what I'm saying is, then you do your work and let the stakes be higher for the child to make it happen. A lot of times it's other way around. Then the child gets into the mode, especially the older children. They say, okay, fine, you are not giving the mobile to me, I will not attend the online classes. So it's always advisable that it's the other way around, that you know what, it's good for you to attend the online classes, that's my expectation, but you're not getting a mobile right now. If you I leave it to you for your best judgment. Okay, so make the stakes higher for your 6-year-old child. Is going to help your child. Yeah, and time yourself, right? That, all right, 5 minutes, I'm going. And another thing which can help 6 years old: do less, speak more. So let your child get the book to the table. You say, all right, it's time to study. So get your, be specific, right? Get your maths book, maths notebook, and your pouch on the table, and call me once you're done. So instead of you getting the whole thing, putting it on the table, then calling out for your child, right? So let your child do that thing, because these are the things which will help the child to transition into the mode of, all right, this is my study time now. That can help your child more. And even if a pencil falls down, don't be in a hurry that, you know what, if the child says, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I want to go to the loo. So all the things they remember when they have to study. So thirsty, fair enough. You ask the child to get the bottle himself. Hungry, ask the child to help himself. You wait for 2 minutes, right? So don't be in a hurry to help your child. Speak more. That will help your child to focus more on the work for 6 years old. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiran. Um, Kiran, what are some activities that can help to improve the attention and concentration of children? If you could just talk about that.
Yeah, so Shalini, a lot of times we think that whatever is being taught in the schools, if we just focus on that and complete those chapters and let the child mug it up by repeating it. Unfortunately, sometimes what happens, the child is more into mugging those answers than actually understanding it. So what actually will help the child more is if some kind of critical thinking and problem solving is introduced to the child early on. Okay, what that means is that the focus is not more so much on the answers. The focus is more on, why do you think this is the answer, right? Sometimes the children just think about some shortcuts and say, okay, I will just add it. But the moment you say why, the child will probably get the cue that maybe I'm wrong, that's why my parent is asking me why. No, I'll subtract it, right? So even when the child says subtract, so from your body language, ideally you should not give away that what you're saying is right or what you're saying is wrong. Focus more on the how part. How did you get it? Now there can be many games that you can play with your child. It could be the I Spy games, where you are having some kind of giving some hints to the child, and the child is figuring it out, is guessing that word. It could be jigsaw puzzles. They are very good. Any game which is around problem solving is a good game, age appropriate. So as the child is like 12 or 13 years old, even a 250 pieces of jigsaw puzzle is a great idea. The child will take days to finish it, 3-4 days, 5-6 days, like that. For a younger child, it could be a 15 to 20 pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. So jigsaw puzzles are good. I Spy is a good game. Even numbering games, like for example, there are games like we have to skip every 5. So you say 1, then the other person says 2, 3. So these are the good games on the dinner table. When you are having your meals together, you can have these kind of games. So the person skips 5 and then says 6. These are good. Backward counting games are good, where you say 10, 9, 8, 7. So just imagine what's happening here. You are not limiting, you are keeping the fun element of learning. And secondly, you are not limiting the learning only to, all right, we have to study now. You're not limiting it to that. Every moment. And observation skills. When you're going out, when you're waiting in a queue with your child, waiting in the doctor's clinic, please don't take out your mobile and be, that's a connect moment with your child. Focus on observing things around. Comment on what's happening around. So that will also increase your child's mindfulness. Mindfulness is an amazing thing where the child is able to live in here and now and is able to remove the distractibility. So these are a good things, Shalini, which can definitely help you as well as your child. Yeah.
Kiran, when you say mindfulness, could you, maybe elaborate a little bit more about around mindfulness and how can parents as well as children practice it efficiently?
Right. Uh, uh, there are few tools which, as a parent, you can help your child. Breathing is one of them. So if you notice that your child is getting very frustrated and all while you are sitting with your child, and you are also getting triggered, you can kind of remind your child that, you know what, let's take a deep breath, okay, and hold your breath, and now deep out. So when you take a deep breath, you count 4, and when you are breathing out, you count 8. So it's always about breathing out more than breathing in. And then you can also say, all right, I'm going to put your hand on my tummy, look, it's going up and down. Now I'll put my hand on your tummy just 5 times or 10 times. It's a really nice de-stressing, and even bringing the focus back on where you are. So breathing is one of those. Other could be, when you are telling your child, for example, when you touch your child, skin to skin touch. So there are children who are able to work much better when you just kind of are touching it, and there's just one stimulation that the child has to react to, as compared to any other distraction which is happening around, including the internal distraction of the child. So for children, of course, there are yoga and others as well. I have not dabbled much into that, but mindfulness is more about it's a big umbrella. But for children, what can help is bringing the focus back on here and now. Even if the child is singing something, you kind of guide the child in terms of, all right, great. So this is one thought. Why don't you write it down so that we don't forget it? Now let's come back to focus on the work. You can have small lines, focus on the work. Avoid labeling your child, you are lazy, you can't do it, you are a bad boy, bad girl, wow, you are such a good girl, you did this. Labeling does not help. It just shows that the child has to work towards earning your love. A child need not work towards earning your love. It's always about your expectations. I expect you to concentrate. I will help you, or you figure out your ways to help yourself. Yeah. Some children work better in sitting position. Some children work better on standing position. Some children are left-handed. Some children are right-handed. Please, observe your child more when they are observing, when they are doing things, and see how you can help your child. Yeah. And emotional control is another thing, Shalini. How your child handles his frustrations, how the child handles no, right? Because academics is highly frustrating work a lot of times. Maybe not for the younger child, but definitely for the older one, where they're not able to get the answers. They have to find other ways to figure it out. They have to understand what the author has written. It can be, and it's passive. The words would not dance in front of you, right? So how the child is handling the frustration in the real life can also help the child to further extrapolate that behavior, those strategies in the academics as well. So please help your child, guide your child into emotional control in the real life. Yeah. And one last thing, Shalini, chores. The whole chores business helps the child in more focus. Just imagine if you give it helps the child to take instructions. Okay, you need to pick up your toys, you need to put it in the basket, and the basket goes in the closet. So you're given 3 instructions there. The child has to remember these 3 instructions. And even if the child did one, you say, all right, so which one did you do? So this is all critical thinking, this is all planning. And all these things are going to help the child into academics. A lot of times we have a myopic way of concentration. We say concentration means academic. Concentration also means day-to-day other interactions, right? Yeah. I hope it helps.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiran, for such a detailed reply. Vandita Sharma says, I have a 5-year-old son. He mostly forgets the things which he has studied. He knows the thing, but he sometimes gets confused and forgets. How can I help him?
All right. So Shalini, what Vandita is saying is she has a 5-year-old and he forgets. He knows things, but he forgets. Did I get it right?
Correct, correct. And even if he remembers, he sounds a little confused.
All right. So Vandita and all the other parents who have younger children, younger, my definition is 6 years less. A lot of times our focus is more on getting the right answer with children. Right. My suggestion is have less judgmental and evaluative approach for your child. and have more learning together kind of approach. So when you are asking your child, for example, in fact, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, when you ask them, okay, what is the color of this bat, and if it is red, and the child may smile and tell you yellow bat. All right, now you got to understand how much intellectual, how much cognitive manipulation it needs for a child to first understand it's red, and then smile, and then mask it, and then say yellow. So just marvel at it instead of saying that, oh, you're being oppositional, you're being defiant, my child always back answers, right? Just enjoy with your child the intelligence that your child is showing. Manipulation also needs certain kind of intelligence, right? And oh wow, you think it's yellow, wow, so how about this, then you get another red thing, this is also yellow. So you can actually keep the playfulness and humor in the studies that you're doing with your child. So for your 5-year-old, my suggestion, Vandita, is that even if your child is not able to answer, right, give some time for him to think, and then just smilingly tell the answer to the child. The less the stress is when the child is sitting, stress is also is known to create noise, especially in young children. Is said to create noise in the child, and while the child is struggling with the defenses and coping mechanism, of course his or her attention and concentration are going to take a hit. So more stress the parent is. In fact, if you find yourself too much triggered, my child is just not doing it, take a break, right? One night sleep, and when you pick it up again the next day is not going to make much of difference, but it's going to make a lot of difference between your connect with your child and between the child's acceptability that yes, right, learning can be fun. So take a break yourself and don't judge your child too much. Give answers to your child in a smiling way, and let the child get away with it. Yeah.
Thank you, Kiran. Kiran, what are some myths and facts around concentration in children? Because we keep hearing these myths around gender, around age. So, would you like to throw some light on that?
Right. So a lot of times, Shalini, if a child is acting out, in real life, then we may think that the child is just being lazy. When the child back answers, the child is being is being disrespectful. I would say that let's get away with this labeling and try to see the intentions behind the spoken word. So if the child says you are the worst parent in the world, let's go behind the intention of the child. Maybe something tough is going on in the child's life. So give a longer rope to the child. First thing, avoid labeling. And the second thing is sometimes we expect the same thing. Suppose there are siblings, one is 10, the other is maybe 7. We start expecting the same expectations from both, even though both are first 10 years of a child. First it is first 5, then it is first 10, and then till 25. So first 5 to 10 years of a child's life, developmentally, a lot of things are happening, right? Every 6 months, every month, every year, the child is growing. So please keep them in a separate bracket. Don't compare your children saying that or don't think that that is going to work. That, okay, you know what, your brother can do it, why can't you? In fact, unfortunately, when the siblings go to the same school and one of them is a star kid, the other child lot of time has to carry the baggage of it. So avoid the comparison. The world may compare. As a parent, what you do matters more to the child instead of anybody else. Third could be even the gender wise. There could be things that girls are better at concentrating, boys are not so good, or boys are better in mathematics, girls are not so good. There could be all sorts of stereotyping here. I would suggest, of course, one thing we can't fight with biology here. We can't fight with hormones here. That is also the reason why ADHD gets manifested, or even autism gets manifested separately in girls, differently in girls and differently in guys. In girls, it could be more anxiety, guys, it could be more boisterous, right? Having said that, concentration or a love for particular subjects, avoid labeling your child that or speaking out your stereotypes in front of your child, because if you give up as a parent, your child is going to internalize it. right? So even if your child has the potential, wouldn't work hard, right? Because your child has to work hard towards proving you right and not proving you wrong. So give a longer rope to your child, immature of what is the gender, immature of what is the age of the child. Don't stop trusting your child's capability. See what is the challenge that your child is facing. Maybe the reason for the child not going to the school has nothing to do with the child skipping assignments. It could be more to do with maybe the child had a fight with the friends the day before, or the teacher shame the child for some reason. The child has a high level of image issue. The child is like 13 and 14 and is just doesn't want to go. Try to figure out what is the reason for that instead of labeling the child. Yeah, I hope that
Thank you,
helps.
Kiran. Thank you, Kiran. And Kiran, anything that a parent should not do, if the must not to do's for parents, if they see that their child does not have a very good concentration level, does not sit at one place. So the not to do's for parents.
Right. The first not to do is definitely you cannot physically or even verbally hurt the child. Um, you are not going to achieve what you want to achieve. It's just your frustration. It's not going to help the child. It's only going to make it more difficult for the child to achieve what you want the child to achieve. So you can't you we got to avoid hitting the child or sarcastically or even talking about the failures of the child in front of the friends. I had a parent who kind of would make fun of the child in front of the friends, saying that, you know what, he got 7 marks or 6 marks, you know that, in a bid, of course, it's all well intentioned, in a bid to encourage the child to get better marks. It doesn't really work, right? It hurts the child like anything, and the child may actually further cocoon himself. So please don't do that. Secondly, please do not touch upon as a consequences the basic rights of the child. The child has right to sleep. The child has right to eat healthy food. All right. The child has a right to take your love for granted. So even if the child has not finished the homework and you don't sleep with your child that day, or you are cold shouldering your child, it's not fair, right? So sleep, eat, your love, and outdoors. The child needs to get basic exercise, basic outdoors. It's going to help the child's restlessness. It's going to help the child focus more. It is a mood enhancer as well, and of course all the other great things which in outdoors help the child socially as well as physically. Right. So please don't stop the outdoors of the child. Don't use that as a yardstick. Let's avoid saying that, you know what, I allowed you to go out for 1 hour. And I'm as much a prey for that, by the way. But I'm just saying it doesn't help. I allowed you to go out for 1 hour. So now you better focus on that. Keep these 4 or 5 things, basic things, right? The child needs that as much as the child needs academic and concentration. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiran, for all your expert advice today. Remember, we now have a Parentune Plus program under which you have a 24/7 support from Parentune experts and access to Plus Live and workshops that equips you with the best knowledge and expertise to do what is right for your child. Thank you so much, Kiran, again for taking out time and giving us these effective tips, do's and don'ts, and answering all the questions of parents. We'll be back again tomorrow at 2:30 with another live in Hindi. Please take good care of yourself, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, Kiran.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you to the parents. Thanks to Parentune for giving me an opportunity.